This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get fly. I got 6 jobs. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And we are still not tired at all on episode number 26 of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Churko, along to my usual sidekick and partner in crime, that is the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, how's it going?
Vito, great response to our chat with UFC fighter Bobby Nash. Very proud of the work that we've been doing. A lot of great compliments. Welcome to the weekend. First and foremost, though, I definitely got to check in and find out, did you get some sun this week? Because when I first saw that Snapchat, I was just like, my goodness, I don't think Vito's little body has gotten sun in the last 4 years. Dude, you were white as a ghost in that Snapchat.
Time out. You said my little body?
Yeah, man. I was like, you were shaking the bamboo. I was like, what is my man doing over there? And then the next thing I saw was my eyes were shocked at the whiteness of your body.
The whiteness popped out at you, and you were stunned by my body.
If I had the body that you had, I would have said, like, look, I'm never taking my shirt off. You need to get a tan, my friend. Have you ever, first and foremost, have you ever been tanning ever in your life?
Before one of my Florida trips that I took, I have gone tanning inside of a tanning booth. Not entirely happy about it, but I did before going to Florida because you need to get that bronzing so you're more ready to tan properly when you go to Florida in the sun on a cruise, as it was before a cruise 2 springs ago, I think. So I've been tanning. I can tan fairly well, by the way, too. I just haven't had my shirt off.
Are you familiar with the term farmer's tan?
Yeah, where half your body is.
And you embody a farmer's tan, and I was just like, my goodness, Vito, you need some sun. Did you get some sun this week?
Well, I had my shirt off for that Snapchat video that you thoroughly enjoyed. I think everybody did. And I didn't need you to pinpoint the whiteness of my body, but I can tell everybody else did, too. It just popped out at everybody because I had the reaction from a few other people, including yourself, about the whiteness of my body just popping out at them when they viewed that Snapchat, which I think was funny, too, was it? I was shaking the bamboo, which I found bamboo branches in my backyard. Did not think I would find that on last Saturday now. It was stunning to me, and I had to shake it out a little bit like Taylor Swift would say, and she would do. So I did so, and it was for the pandas. My brother put it, by the way, did you see the caption? I was shaking the bamboo branches for the pandas.
Now, I'm the embodiment of somebody that would be an expert on the farmer's tan because I don't get that much sun either, so I don't walk around.
You don't take your shirt off. See, I will. I'm willing to, and I might get a tan from it. I just haven't been on the water yet. Now, I will be for the 4th of July, which is coming up here quick. I will be on the water at Lake Wixom for the 4th straight 4th of July. So that'll be very fun again with some buddies. Guess who's going to be with me for this trip?
Nick.
The one and only Nick Schmiegel, once again, still doesn't listen to this podcast, but name dropping him once again, and he will be along for the ride for the 4th of July weekend, which I'm leaving Friday night and going to be there until Tuesday night, coming back on 4th of July night.
So, Vito, guess who did not get an invite to this 4th of July celebration? The DOC.
You failed to get an invite again. And once again, as part of this weekly segment now, and things that I did that Doc wasn't invited to, or will be doing that Doc was not invited to. We can say that much here as we
annoying
preview.
Scumbag.
Wow, you went far there. I hope I'm not a scumbag.
Asswipe.
Or that.
What a dummy.
Or that.
It's okay, Vito. What do you guys do when you go out there on the lake? And you said you've been going 4 years. What attracts you to this lake?
4 years strong. Well, probably the ladies. Yeah, you see some stunning ladies, and it's just fun with the buddies, hanging out with them on the water. I'm no big-time swimmer. I barely even know how to swim, by the way. So I'm no Michael Phelps out there. But I can stay afloat. I walk around. I think it's Pontoon Alley. I don't even know what it's called, the alley where all the boats are docked at. So we'll take, now this is my buddy's future stepfather's cottage that we're going to. He has a pontoon. So we'll go to what I believe is called Pontoon Alley on Lake Wixom. A lot of boats are docked out there. You see a lot of dudes, a lot of females. And it's a good time, man. You bring up some cervezas and you drink it up, you party it up, you live it up, whatever you want to call it, and you have a darn good time. I'll say that much too, Doc.
Nice. I hope you have a great time. I think it's a nice time to kind of take a little break from the podcast. I think next week we're going to do maybe just a couple, maybe Doc and Jock, maybe Two Bad Hombres will grace the airways at DetroitSportsPodcast.com. But you've had a good time. What was your best time? Any story that you are obliged to tell?
I can tell one. Now, it doesn't totally involve me, but my buddy's cousin was there, goes every single year as well. He looks like this DJ, a notable DJ by the name of Steve Aoki. When he has his hair grown out, he definitely looks like Steve Aoki. So, what we did, me and my buddies, with this guy that looks like Steve Aoki, we pretended that he was indeed Mr. Steve Aoki, this legendary and very, very popular worldwide DJ. People believed it. All the women, all the dudes, everybody loved it. Just ate it up. We got onto a boat as well, saying that he was Steve Aoki, and I was his agent. I was his agent for the day. Last summer, 4th of July, we did this act with this buddy of mine's cousin, who's a buddy of mine too, this cousin of him, and we lived it up, man, and we got a ton of laughs out of it because each of us, too, kept saying, that's Steve Aoki. We kept telling everybody that came in our direction, that's Steve Aoki, and people were just eating it up. They believed it. Like, we didn't have anybody that didn't believe it. It was that believable because he looks like Steve Aoki that much with his hair grown out, Doc.
Drinks? Did you have a good time, or did you guys dance with girls, or what did you guys do on the boat?
Dancing on the water. I was dancing on the boat. I was living it up. I told everybody like I said on the boat too. That was Steve Aoki. I tried to get on the mic. I wanted some mic time. Almost got on the mic, by the way. Okay, but he got on the mic for a little bit. Steve Aoki, the Steve Aoki lookalike, and he told everybody he was the Steve Aoki, and people once again believed it. They just ate it up, Doc.
Any haters? Anybody question whether it was real or not, or anybody find out?
Nobody really questioned the authenticity, which was amazing. Nobody really questioned the legitimacy of that being Steve Aoki.
Now, again, this is now 2017. Do you think if he grows his hair out that you'll take advantage of it further and maybe even try to maybe score with the young ladies and just say, look?
I was hoping it would have helped me out. Now, we met some young ladies. We always do, by the way. And there is this crew of young ladies who we will see this year. And it's a buddy of mine's girlfriend and her girlfriends. We'll see them this 4th of July on the lake. I guess they have a place right nearby where we do on Lake Wixom. But I was going to bring up another quick story here where we see this group of girls. We don't even know them, but we see them every 4th of July, like the same 3 girls, Doc. And I think we've seen them every single year at the 4th of July. The last 3 years, at least 3 out of the 4 years, we've seen the same crew of girls, 3 girls who are always there, we always talk to. And one of my friends, not me, has gotten a little bit lucky with one of the girls in the past. And I think 2 straight years now on the 4th of July. Not me, but another buddy who will go nameless. I'll just say that much, Doc. Okay. So we have a good time. We live it up. We've met some nice young ladies and some nice dudes, and everybody's having a good time, man. It's like everybody is in a relaxed mode and wants to live it up as well a little bit. And it's a full-blown celebration, man.
I'm a 35-year-old Parade magazine reading virgin.
That's not me, at least yet. Hope to never be that. But we live it up, man. It's a relaxed atmosphere. I think you would even enjoy it as a 35-plus-year-old now.
Okay, Vito, I wish you the best of luck. This year, you'll go to the lake and maybe tell everybody you're a major sports broadcaster and you're a major sports reporter and see if you can have some fun and maybe come back with some more tales. I think after the holiday, when we return and are firing on all cylinders here at the network, you bring one of your boys on and we have a phone call and kind of relive the experience on the lake. I would love to hear what you guys did and some of the events that made it fun at Lake Wixom.
Should be fun once again. A 4th straight year once again. And Doc, I have those business cards now, courtesy of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You and Adam gladly did that for me. I think gladly did it, and I appreciate it highly. Want to thank you guys on the air here. Adam has heard it. I think you've heard it in person already, too. But yeah, these guys, Adam and Doc, John McEnroe, that is my co-host here, they took the time out of their busy schedules to make these business cards for me with my name on it, all my different titles, an array of titles that I have now, courtesy of the Doc, most notably, and maybe I can live it up through those business cards. How about that? Passing them out to some girls that I meet? Would that work? What do you think, Doc?
Now, Vito, you also have to be careful because there are kind of laws against kind of impersonating people.
Well, no, it's my name on the cards.
No, I'm talking about the Steve Aoki
Oh, okay,
person.
going back to that. Okay.
If you're going to try to run that scam one more time, I think you got to be careful. Just maybe you're Steve Aoki's brother or Steve Aoki's cousin. Maybe not.
Oh, the guy himself, you're saying?
Yeah, maybe not.
Because could we be liable for anything?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're trying to say, right? They could file a lawsuit or something against us?
If someone wants to be a hater and realizes that you're impersonating, they can maybe make a complaint or even contact Steve Aoki and say, hey, there's these clowns here in Michigan impersonating you.
Like anybody knows him on the lake, though. What are the chances of that? And a big Vito's over-under now on Bad Hombres. Over under 50% that anybody actually knows Steve Aoki there. In terms of on a personal level, knowing Steve Aoki.
That's true.
Right? Much less than 50%. But you have to worry about all these things nowadays. I mean, everybody is liable for everything. right? That's why they're signing contracts for everything.
Right.
For everything that you do in life now.
Do you and your boys like have a no phone policy? Like if you're getting loose or a little bit, because your boy Nick seems to like to take pictures of you.
Yeah, he does.
When you're kind of in compromised
A
positions.
bad mood. Yeah, not in an altered state of mind. But the thing is, on the water, we don't bring our phones. Nobody is stupid enough to bring our phones out because somebody would drop it. Probably me. I'm the most stupid of the bunch of guys that I hang out with, it seems like, on a consistent basis. So it would be me if anybody.
That's correct.
Thank you for the affirmation there, Doc. You're always willing to affirm me on those points. But yeah, I mean, I'd be the guy to drop my nice phone here, which is already cracked, by the way, because I already dropped it once. I would be the guy to drop it in the water and to damage it permanently. And I can't afford for that to happen because I do so much of my business and my work
Vito,
on my phone here.
You're a Samsung guy. Get
Yep.
one of those phones that's waterproof.
I wonder if this is waterproof. I wouldn't even know. Samsung Galaxy S7?
Look it
Is
up. Within 2 or 3 feet of water, I think your phone's waterproof.
But I can't keep dropping it.
No.
Probably dropping it numerous times wouldn't be so good for my phone.
No, because
though.
this go around, I think you need to kind of employ the thinking where you let everyone else get loose and have a good time, and you just start snapping everybody. Party on the Lake Wixom snaps, I think would be quite interesting and at least entertaining for those that are
You
just,
would like them. How much would you like them, man?
I love them a lot. Why
You'd be
not?
living vicariously through me, probably, right?
That's the purpose of social media.
Uh-huh.
So I implore you to go out there on the lake, have a good time, get some sun. And
Yep, can use that. You're right.
Yeah, and relax and regroup, and we'll come back full force after the holiday, and we'll let it rip and continue to, make progress like we have been here on the network. So I look forward to your trip and hear some stories from Lake Wixom. Sounds good.
Doc, speaking of having to come back full force, how about Cam Newton? And I wanted to bring up this topic. Now, I believe it was on last Saturday where he made some comments, some interesting and choice comments that weren't received too well by many. And
so we got negative flack for what he said.
negative flack, bad PR for Cam Newton, who's been in bad PR situations before, remember, too, earlier on. Now, Newton told players in last Saturday's 7-on-7 football tournament at Providence Day School that football was his only option. And here's a direct quote. Okay, open quote. I didn't have no plan B, closed quote. That was his direct quote that he told these players last Saturday at this 7-on-7 football tournament. And by the way, just for some clarification too, Providence Day School is a college preparatory transitional kindergarten school through grade 12, located in Charlotte, North Carolina. So he was doing a speaking engagement because he plays for the Panthers, obviously. Didn't have the best season behind center or under center for the Panthers last season. Really, he was a disappointment. And now these comments have been perceived as disappointing to some as well. You could say to many. I said to many earlier in talking about it. I think to many at this point, the comments have been disappointing. And to me, I can see why he's received, Doc, some negative PR.
What do you think?
I think it's not a good lesson to teach kids who aren't built or athletically skilled like Cam Newton. Not everybody can grow up to be a quarterback. I couldn't. Look at me. I'm under 5 feet tall. I'm a little person. I wasn't going to play football. I wasn't going to play Major League Baseball. Would have loved to. But I had to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. I have a lot of plans here still in the
Vito,
works.
I think once you come back from this lake trip, if it's successful.
How old were you when you lost your virginity?
I think that if you have an opportunity to come back, I think you might be a new man. And here's kind of
tell me why
I want to go with this, because you seem backed up. You seem very angry and very cranky. And here's one way of looking at it, okay? For me, through my life experience now being 38, you obviously know I kind of take things from a positive perspective. I'm not too negative a lot of the time. When things happen, I kind of, look for the positives, try to cope with it in the best possible way. If you're thinking about what he said in a negative light, yes, you could be offended. Yes, you could look at it and say, what? Everybody's going to have options. What if you don't make it? What if, you go out there, what? Cam Newton's telling these kids that there's no opportunity for them to do something else, that they should be singular focused, and that's the only thing that he wanted? I look at it and I say, look, for Cam Newton, he's only sharing his personal experience. And if you want the guy to be real, he's telling his story. Now, if you want to judge him for it, he can sit there and tell you, if you want to judge me for it, the reason why I was successful was because I was laser focused. The only thing I thought about was to put out positive energy and to believe that I was not going to do nothing else. I was not going to have a backup plan. And some people will say to reach the ultimate heights of success, where you can be a black quarterback in the NFL and make it to the Super Bowl, that you have to have a certain level of laser focus. Whereas on the 4th of July, maybe some kids don't go to Lake Wixom and party and yoke it up with their friends and down a bunch of drinks. What he does is, maybe on the 4th of July weekend, you work out, you eat well, you train, you watch film, you have a laser focus so that you can reach the heights of success that you need to to be a top-of-the-line quarterback. Now, of course, and also too, Vito, you also, when I talk to people, have to understand the game that you're playing and the chessboard. Do you think that, realistically, all the kids that he spoke to are never going to hear the message that, look, you have to have a plan B? Somebody along the way, whether it be a teacher, a hater on social media, a counselor, a brother, a cousin, there's going to be somebody introduced to this kid's life that's going to say, ho, you want to be an athlete? The odds are pretty low. You're going to want to get your education. I do feel like the message of get your education has been saturated well enough where someone's going to hear it. So I don't fault Cam Newton at all because this is a guy that's speaking to kids about his experience. Do I judge him for it? No. Am I mad at him? No. But at the same time, I can understand those that take the stance that you have to kind of present the message that it's important. But there are people actually going out there and spreading the message that, look, going to college is for suckers. Go out there, get a job, get experience. There are several entrepreneurs who are multi-billionaires who barely finished high school, barely went to college, and they'll say, look, why are you paying the man 40 G's when you can make 160 G's in 4 years, save all your money? Why go get an education? Life will give you that education. So for me personally, I don't begrudge Cam Newton for the talk that he had. Yeah, some people could look at it and say that's probably not the message you want to kind of send when you're in that role. But at the same time, for him personally, his honest opinion, and I'm always of the opinion you should be honest and tell your truth and try to sift through the riffraff of political correctness. I'm fully in agreement that, hey, he said it. That's his experience. Look where he's at. He's a multimillionaire. So I choose to not critique guys that have a lot of zeros in their bank accounts.
My only argument to that would be that others now, after hearing that,
you have to have laser
would
focus.
take the approach that there's only one thing for me in life. And they might hear that you have to have a plan B, a plan C, even a plan D from other people in their lives. But how about others in poor upbringing situations that don't have that opportunity to hear that message expressed by a role model? A guy that athletes that aspire to be professional football players one day, they look up to a figure such as Cam Newton, a star quarterback in the NFL. So my worry is that they won't get the message. I know what you said, they will get the message, but not every child will. And that's what scares me when you say, I didn't have a plan B, and I didn't need a plan B. Because you do. You need a backup plan. Even Cam Newton, think about it. Think about these guys that lose all their millions of dollars after their professional sports careers end. How many guys have we heard that about? And numerous notable names that had kind of lengthy careers and successful or illustrious careers in their respective sport. Think about that, too, because they don't have anything to fall back on after their careers end. And that's why I say now Cam Newton went back and, by the way, got his education, graduated from Auburn. More power to him. But I would rather hear him talk about that because people won't even notice that. Unless you look it up, do some research. It's easy enough to dig up, but some people don't think of looking up stuff about others that are in these speaking engagements. They don't do any further research about the guy who's speaking to them. Now, if you found that out, you get something out of it. But you kind of need that expressed. I think it would have been good for him to touch on that very note that he did go back to Auburn University and got his degree. And more power to him for doing that, and to those who do go back and get their degrees after their careers end or while they're still playing in their respective sport.
See, Vito, I understand the whole notion of it takes a community, but when you look at ignorance and when you look at life experience teaching you, sometimes making mistakes is a great lesson. Okay, so you're looking at these kids, and let's say they want to become football players, and they don't. Okay, then it becomes upon them to either educate themselves or to figure out what's the best avenue for me to reach success. If you have a conversation with one person, I do believe that people do have it innately to want to succeed. And one of the secrets to success is to ask questions. Surround yourself with people that are successful, or to at least talk to somebody about, hey, you're a business owner. How did you own a business? Ask a singular question. So I don't think that these kids were so damaged by not hearing the message of you need a plan B. Okay, because at the very least, let's say, for example, they do throw all their eggs in one basket and they fail. Then what? Then what's going to happen is they need to say, oh, you know what? Playing football is not going to be for me. Maybe I can be a coach. Maybe I can be this. Maybe I can be that. I think the one thing that I would always sell if I were to talk to people, if I was ever paid a significant sum of money to have these speeches, is the word hope, which is this. You can be whatever you want in this life. You can be the president. You can be, the best podcaster in the world. You can be, an administrator. You can be this or that. But should you reach some hurdles, you always need to have hope that you can take a left turn in your life and still come back to the main road of being a good person and being an upstanding citizen. That's all I would say. It's add that. I would say, look, yes, you probably do need singular focus in order to reach the heights of success that I did. But at the same time, if you do throw all your eggs in one basket, have a little hope that you can find another avenue within the same thing. You can be the president and GM of a football team. You can be a scout. You can be around the game as an announcer. You can be a broadcaster. So there is never really closed doors if you're open-minded and have hope. And that's the message that I would give. Maybe he didn't feel like giving it, maybe because of the time restraints, or that didn't come to his mind. But I do believe in the value of what he actually said, and I'm not picking apart what he did not say.
And I don't think I'm being a liberal snowflake, as you like to call me at times, and other liberals out there, because I think...
That's correct.
Yeah, because you would like to... I probably just put the words in, what you would want to say about me right now after I talked about my side of things and how I viewed it. Yes, how I viewed it negatively, what he said. And you know what? It's not a great thing to pick apart people's words all the time, and it's not... We're not in position just to do that. But at the same time, we have the right to speak our mind. And you brought up that it's a good thing, or you started to say it's a good thing to be multidimensional, right? You didn't clear-cut say it, but look at you and what you've done in your career, right? Podcasting now, and you're a psychologist. What have I done? What do I have to keep doing in order to be successful one day, big time
You're not that
successful?
much of a loser, are you?
Right? You're not that much of a loser. I don't want to be a loser all my life. So the thing is, I've got to keep being multidimensional. That's my thing in all of this. That's why you can't be, I think, completely singularly focused. You have to have your mind set on things, on goals that you want to accomplish in life. And more power to you if you want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL or just a football player and do it professionally, or be a professional baseball player in Major League Baseball. More power to you to be focused on that, to work out, to lift, to stay in shape, to eat healthy, and do all the things right to be able to maybe take it to the next level. But I think you have to be also focused on, what is my plan B? That's all I'm trying to say. And on your education, which once again, more power to Cam Newton. He actually did go back. He got his degree at Auburn, graduated. But not everybody does do that, and that's why we see some failure stories at the end of people's professional sports careers, where they lose all their money, and then they have nothing to fall back on. Cam Newton has something to fall back on now. That's my point, Doc.
Let me put it in perspective, okay? My main career is a psychologist. That's what I do because I'm an excellent, superb listener, and I try to help people to try to meet their goals and help them gain the insights that they need. Okay, but now if you ask me, how could I take this podcast network to the heights that I think in my mind could go to? So I would say that, okay, if I wanted this podcast network to be on par with like a Podcast One, to reach the advertising levels, to reach the listenership and all that I would not do the practice. And every game that the Tigers played, I'd set up a booth and kind of talk to all the people day in, day out, 80 games. If you look at it throughout the course of this podcast, there were over 400 Detroit Tigers home games. You know how many I went to and promoted the Detroit Sports Podcast? 0. So you look at it, if I was singularly focused, this podcast network would be even at a higher level than we already are. But that's not really my goal, is to say that I want to be at the top of the game and have the world record number of podcasts. I have a certain vision for the podcast, which I'm able to do. Now, where do I need to put that focus? I need to put that focus on other things as well, but I'm not trying to reach the heights that Cam Newton is in terms of making $1 million a year off of the podcast. But if I wanted to, I really believe if I put the efforts, if I quit, I can tell you this, if I win the lotto, I will devote all my efforts to the podcast and trying to reach those big goals. I won't do anything else with real estate. I won't do anything else with another practice. I won't do anything else with consulting. I won't do anything else with nothing. I will try to make the podcast as huge as it is because of the notion that, podcasting isn't as good as real broadcasting. And it's now been shown that it is. And throughout the course of the life of this podcast, I'm very happy with how it's turned out because of the fact that now we are gaining some advertisers, some sponsors, the numbers on Twitter. Because you got to remember, back in 2013, there was no real path to podcasting. Adam and I just said, let's just go do it, and let's just learn from Adam Carolla, and let's just figure it out. And that's what we did. And so that's why I believe you listen to what he's saying in terms of if you want to reach the heights of success, you almost have to be. That's what I do believe separates the top-of-the-line athletes from the middle of the road, is the dedication and the time that you put in. And look at a guy like Tiger Woods. From the time he was 3 years old till the time as an adult when he figured out what he could do with his noodle, he had a focus about golf. And then he got distracted, obviously, by the most poisonous thing in the world, and it happens.
Women?
Of course. It happened. But he was laser focused. That's how Tiger Woods, along with talent, becomes Tiger Woods.
What else is there? You just said it. You just pinpointed it. Talent. These guys, Cam Newton and Tiger Woods, guess what? They're naturally gifted at their respective sports. You and I aren't at golf or football. We couldn't ever reach those levels of success. My other point, really quick, to sum it all up, why I'm the contrarian here to your points, is that I think some kids are focused in a singular manner on the wrong things. They think they can reach the height of success that Cam Newton and others have reached in their respective professions, and they focus all of their attention and effort on reaching success in football or something else in their respective, favorite sport and the sport they're most passionate in, when they're not going to ever reach the mountaintop. It was never meant for them. They're not as naturally gifted. And I think it's sad but true, but I think some people are bad leaders of these children.
So if you're listening out there and you want to bring on Vito Churko to give a motivational speech, he'll deliver the message. Your kid doesn't have talent. He's not going to reach the mountaintop. So just go
the
home.
point is, if your kid doesn't have the talent necessary, you got to focus on something else. I think these kids focus on these things too long. And the thing is, you know why they focus on things this long? Their parents and coaches are brainwashing them to think that they have a chance at reaching high levels of success when they don't have a chance to reach high levels of success in whatever the sport may be. That's my point.
Remember, know the game you're playing. Know the chessboard. Okay? Maybe some of these kids are only clinging on to the one thing that will get them out of tough situations, which is hope. Okay, you can't go in there and be like, "Look, you're not as talented as Cam Newton. You're going to be a failure." You can't.
But there's another way of getting out of a bad situation. Guess what it is?
It's having Plan B.
Academics.
Yes.
Academics. You can do that and be successful and make more money than Cam Newton.
Yeah, that's
think about it, you can make a lot of money. Come on, right?
That is a great.
There's
point.
a point to that.
There's a great.
You can
point
go to Harvard, become an engineer or a scientist, an astrophysicist. I don't even know what these things are, what these people do, and they make millions of dollars, as you and I know, Doc.
Exactly, but I think the number one thing that he was selling is hope. Sell hope that, hey, if you're laser focused on anything, and I'm not sure he said, look, if you want to be a successful football player, I'm sure he probably mixed in, look, if you want to be a teacher or a dentist, just try to do your job and be 100% the best that you can be. That's probably the best way he probably would have delivered it if he was going to do it differently.
That's the way to do it. I think focus on what you know that you do best and keep working at that, man. Striving for success and whatever that may be, because when you have something that you can succeed in, you got to attack it, man, because you know what? That can be your career for the rest of your life and something at the same time that you're passionate in and then can make some money in as well at the end of the road.
Well, Vito, it's time for me to break the news to you. Your talents in podcasting aren't really that good. You need to focus on something else.
Good. I'm glad I finally heard it because you've been leading me along this route for way too long and brainwashing me with this false hope.
And then before our first break, I always will tell you, probably in the next couple episodes until the message wears thins, but friends don't let friends become writers. All right, let's take our first time out.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, what's coming up in the second half of the podcast ahead of this break?
Well, how about now, I'm not talking about you, but I'm going to say Johnny Mac. John McEnroe calling out Serena Williams and, well, saying some interesting comments about her and where she would rank in the men's circuit of tennis at the highest level.
All right, stick with us. Second half of the podcast coming right up. We'll talk about John McEnroe and some of the interesting comments that he made. You're listening to the Two Bad Hombres on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc, as you know, Podomatic.com is a great host site for all of our podcasts on a daily basis that we put out there. And I think, honestly, I know we're a little bit biased here, but there's nothing better than Podomatic and how easily accessible it is to put up an episode of Two Bad Hombres every single Saturday. For me, with Tigers Talk, I put that one up. I do it myself most of the time. On Wednesdays, Two Bad Hombres on Saturdays, and I get on there, man, and the speed is so quick. I mean, there's like nothing to it, and that's why Podomatic has been our host site for a long time here now with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and there's nothing better than it. And I think you and I both, Doc, recommend Podomatic for any startup podcaster, long-tenured podcaster. Podomatic is the site you need to use for all of your podcasting and host site needs. Don't forget to visit Podomatic.com.
Hey, don't forget that boy told you, kid. Fly, turn up your shoulder, you got a kid. Fly, turn up your shoulder, you got a kid. Fly, turn up your shoulder, you got a kid. Fly, turn up your shoulder, you got a kid. Fly, turn up your shoulder.
And back here On episode number 26 of Two Bad Hombres, it is Vito Jerome alongside the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, another Johnny Mac in the news recently for his comments about Serena Williams. A lot of backlash, a lot of PR backlash we're talking about on this very edition of Two Bad Hombres, Doc.
First and foremost, were you surprised that he doubled down and said, look, no, I agree with my comments regarding Serena Williams, that against the number 700th ranked male tennis player, that she would struggle, and I'm not backing down from my comments. Are you a little bit surprised that McEnroe didn't cow down a little bit or backtrack at all regarding his comments?
He's bold. He's brash. He cares nothing about what others think about his comments, about any kind of comments that he's made throughout the years. These comments about Serena Williams, choice comments, which, I mean, it's hard to say they were totally fitting. And I don't know, because it's hard to say, because there is truth to it, because I know what these tennis experts, aficionados bring up, that the men, they hit the ball harder at each other.
Set the scene. What is all the fury about?
Well, that they think he's being misogynist towards Serena Williams and women tennis players. And I think people think that he should have been more fair, talked about more of an equal or even playing field, because he didn't really establish that. He didn't say there is an even playing field. But realistically, Doc, now you play tennis. You're more of the tennis aficionado, even though I watch it now here and there. And I enjoy men's and women's, honestly. And Colin Cowherd came out and defended John McEnroe, too. He did, and said, he took the stance that, you know what, women's tennis, despite not being as prestigious, actually can be more fun to watch, more entertaining at times. I don't know what you feel about that, but McEnroe, the premise of this conversation here between you and I on this week's podcast, Doc, is that he took some major heat. And I can't say totally that it was rightfully taken, that this heat was delivered to him rightfully. What do you have to say about all of this, Doc?
Okay, now let's set the scene in terms of how this came about. He was on an NPR interview, and the female reporter asked, and she said, look, you know, we're talking about Serena Williams and things like that, and she goes to him and she says, why are you qualifying it in terms of the fact that she's a female tennis player? And he pauses for a minute and goes, what are you saying? And the reporter goes, well, why are you qualifying that Serena is a great female tennis player? Why can't you just say that she's a great all-around player, maybe one of the greatest all-around tennis players? So based upon what the reporter was asking, John McEnroe perceives, oh, she's asking, where does Serena Williams rank among all tennis players, both male and female? And he says, and probably you could pick apart the fact that he said she probably couldn't compete with the 700th ranked male players. So
that's where I kind of draw the line a little bit myself, because I know it'd be hard to say that she could compete with the top tennis players in the world in the men's circuit. She couldn't because of that gender just divide, right? They're just not. Women and men, we've known for many years, aren't as athletically gifted naturally, so the men would be superior and are superior in tennis as well. And not to defeat your point, what you were trying to say, but yeah, I think 700th, him saying that she would rank around there in the men's circuit, maybe a little bit too harsh. But that's John McEnroe being John McEnroe too, right?
It's one of those things where basically he was asked, you know, how does Serena Williams compare to the top tennis players in the world? Now, if you look back, Serena Williams, with her own words, went on David Letterman's show, and she talked about the fact that, look, one of my friends is Andy Murray. If we were to play, he would whoop me 6-0, 6-0 in 5 minutes. It's a different game. And I think the problem that we have with this story is the question was ridiculous from the reporter. Because in the end, we always have to qualify it. She's a female tennis player. And when we look at it, I think that in this day and age, we want to be able to tell ourselves, okay, Serena Williams could compete against male tennis players. Yeah, she could compete. But in essence, are you saying that, comparatively speaking, to the 700th ranked male tennis player, what would she do? Here's the thing, though, Vito. It'll never happen.
No, we'll never see it, right?
Unless we set up an intergender tennis league, this is all speculation.
Yep.
We can all debate it. And unfortunately, you don't want to crush the dreams of women and tell them that they can't compete with male tennis players. But in essence, that's what most people believe. So it's one of those things where it's two different sports. The male game is a little bit more dominant, a little bit more, structured in terms of the fact that guys can serve a little bit harder, can hit the ball a little bit harder. Can Serena Williams compete versus top pros? Probably. She would hold her own. But would she be able to win some of these matches? I highly doubt it. But it's not an insult. I think people take it as an insult when you perceive it like, oh, Serena doesn't rank among the best tennis players in the world. I'm like, look, Serena is a great talent. Why can't we leave it at that? And I really believe that some people are saying it in that all across the board, the reporter shouldn't ask such a dumb question.
Well, and remember, she's not a sports personality, which people have brought up, like Colin Cowherd once again.
Right, but at the same time, you look at it and you say John McEnroe can be a little bit politically correct and say something along the lines of, look, this is speculation. I don't think Serena is ever going to play a male match. I feel like she's the best player in her generation among females. And look at the success that she's had in terms of winning Grand Slams, her competitiveness. Just shower her with praise and just say, look, it's one of those things where we know the facts. We know what the truth is. You just can't say it this day and age. You can't.
But he doesn't care about being politically correct.
He can't.
He could have been, I think what you said, you nailed it on the head. He could have said it the way that you just did. But McEnroe, do you think he cares?
Right. Now he
cares less, man.
He went on the Dan Patrick Show on Tuesday, and here's some of the comments that he made regarding the controversy surrounding the whole comments he made regarding Serena Williams. This is taken from the Dan Patrick radio program. Fine program.
Why do people have a problem with what you said?
I don't know. They don't talk about it in other sports. I suppose when Riggs played Billie Jean back in the 70s, it's prompted this idea that we should keep doing it. It hasn't really happened, although Connors played Martina Navratilova about 20-something years ago. He only had one serve, and she had the doubles alley and beat her. And over the course of time, people, including our now president, wasn't president at the time, have offered me sums of money to play Serena or Venus. I don't know why I'm always the guy that they want to play. The old fart now that, can you still beat Serena? But at any rate, I believe I have some ability left, and I had pride when I played, and they could ask, why don't they ask her to play Roger Federer or, Rafael Nadal on clay, see how that goes.
Yeah, but would you play her for amount of money?
I never really thought that was something to mix the apples and oranges. I should probably suggest now that it might not be a bad idea if everyone's all up in arms about it.
But
Have the women play in the men's circuit, and we'll see what happens. Let them all play for the next 2 years and see what the rankings are. And as far as I talk about it in this book a little bit. Obviously, you haven't read it, Dan, but that's okay.
I just got it.
Well, you just got it a minute ago, so I forgive you.
Yeah.
But
I love the pictures in there, though.
My own kids. I have 4 girls and 2 boys, so I've become a great feminist over the years, so Anna would be happy about that. But they don't think I can beat her. And there's a lot of people that don't think I can beat her at this stage, and I'm not quite as sure as I was a couple of years ago. She's a tremendous player and one of the great athletes, period, of the 20th century, for sure. There's
but
no
don't you think
21st.
it's this
See, so now the way we want to look at it is like this, okay? He was asked a question. It's not like he just went around and was like, oh, she couldn't handle it. But the question was posed, and he figured it out that she was asking, like, look, why do we have to qualify it? Well, we qualify it because of the fact that Serena doesn't play in the men's game. So
that's the reason why.
That's why we qualify. So people will ask, well, why do you qualify it? That means Serena can't be the greatest of all time. Okay, that's a whole separate category. Who is the greatest tennis player of all time? I'll give you 2 names, and those are the only 2 names. Pete Sampras, Roger Federer.
Yep.
Anybody else, I'm ignoring you. I'm not listening. I don't care. Now, who's the greatest women's tennis player of all time? Serena Williams, Steffi Graf. And then you could debate and go back and forth. She's in the category of a great tennis player, a great female tennis player, and that's that. If you don't want to continue, I know a lot of reporters say, well, why do women always have to have the conversation and compete with men when we talk about greatness? Because if the question's asked, people are going to tell their honest opinion. If you want people to lie to you to your face and just tell you what you want to hear, that's fine. But I'm always of the opinion, speak your truth, and we'll go from there. And the whole controversy is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. I do believe that if you really look at it, if you realize that Serena Williams said with her own words that she couldn't compete with Andy Murray, and it's a different sport, it's a different comparison. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison. She's a great tennis player, and that's more than enough. Now, if she wants to come out and say, I'm the best player ever of all time, people are going to potentially debate that.
And let's see you play that. Let's see you play a man, and not John McEnroe, who's past his prime. Like you said, an old fart like him. I mean, that'd be interesting still. I would hope, for Serena's sake, that she would beat him. Serena, pretty much in her prime still. You better beat John McEnroe past his prime.
Yeah, but that doesn't go to gender. It goes to the fact that she's in her 30s and he's in his 50s. Come on.
That's what I'm talking about. It should be a 30-year-old and 30-year-old going at it. It should be. But it'd still be fun for television. How about it? How much money would be on the line? Probably, or at least bragging rights between Serena, women's tennis players, and then, well, at least John McEnroe. And I think some men's tennis players, too, would view it as a bragging rights thing.
And I think people get all sensitive when they say that, well, if a woman can't compete with a man in sports, that it's such a great offense. Okay, look, women have different body shapes than men. It's biology.
Yep. We're built differently.
Yeah, we're built differently. It's never the same comparison. Now, obviously, are we always striving for equality between men and women? Of course. We don't want to degrade women at all in any circumstance. Women can exceed men in several categories. if they put their minds to it in this country at this point in time. I really feel like, women are getting closer to equality than they have ever been, and they should continue to strive for equality because it's great. I think that women can accomplish anything they set their minds to, just like a man can. But when it comes to athletic endeavors, it's just a different discussion.
And because that's because of biological things, right? Men are naturally gifted more athletically than women are because of biological things.
Now, with all things being equal, okay? If Serena Williams was kind enough to take our invite and play you in tennis, she would whoop your ass.
Absolutely.
Now, if you were 6'4" and were ranked in the top 500, you probably would have some advantages.
And I feel this way too. You know what? John McEnroe is a passionate man full of pride. And if you're a men's tennis player at the top of your profession or even in the top 500 of the men's circuit, you're going to be so passionate and prideful that you're going to say to yourself too and tell people that she would never beat me. If I was one of those 6'4" men playing in the men's circuit and ranked in the top 500, even top 700, I would tell myself and tell my friends and family and maybe even go on Twitter. I would be so passionate and prideful that I would tell everybody, I'm going to beat Serena Williams. I want the challenge. Now, I know I could get embarrassed. If I lose, it is embarrassing for the man, right? And you have to live with that the rest of your life. And guess what? The story about you the rest of your life will be that you lost to Serena Williams. But I would spin it this way. I lost to the best women's tennis player of all time. Right? You could say she's the best women's tennis player maybe of all time. Exactly. And you know more about tennis. But in the women's circuit, currently best and maybe of all time. So you could spin it positively still. It wouldn't be the harshest or worst thing for a men's tennis player to come out and to say, I want to play Serena and to lose to Serena in a match.
But in this day and age, you and I can laugh and banter back and forth. But if I was to be asked that question, I just would say no comment. I don't know.
See, I don't think it's misogynist. And I'm a liberal snowflake once again. Like I said before, you've called me that.
But the theme of
I'm usually the liberal snowflake.
Remember what I told you, the theme of the podcast is you got to know the playing field. This world right now is way politically correct. And look, that's why this story is blown up because people are like, oh my God, why are we talking about women? It's blown up. So if I'm asked that question, I would be like, Serena Williams is amazing. I think she's great. I think she could handle her business in any situation. Let's go on to the next thing.
But I thought you're not PC. You're Mr. Brash, Mr. Bold yourself. You're Johnny Mac without being John McEnroe, the great tennis player.
I think at this point in time, it's about 60-40 in favor of the PC police. It's getting back up there. It was 70-30, maybe 80-20, maybe as little as 6 months ago. The Truth and First Amendment people are coming back. We're fighting. The Being Real crowd is coming back. I think people are getting annoyed with this whole PC world and the snowflakes and people that do get offended easily.
Over everything, yeah. Way too much.
There's a new name for them, the Social Justice Warriors, SJW.
Which is better. That's a better way to put it, though. I think I want to be a social justice warrior. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes,
I would like being a social justice warrior, fighting for what is right.
The social justice warriors are the ones that are offended. Oh, my God. John McEnroe said these comments. I'm moved by it at all. Either way, if you want to be a social justice warrior in this position, set up the match. Find a player ranked number 699 and let her play.
Let's do it, baby. If I'm Serena, I want to face, maybe not the number one player, but I want to face somebody in the top 100. Give me him. But you know what's funny? We're all offended for her, and she wasn't offended. She wasn't even offended. So we're being offended for somebody that hasn't even been offended by any of this and went on David Letterman's talk show back when Letterman was hosting it on CBS, and she said herself that she doesn't think she could compete with a man playing tennis.
Right. Vito, let me tell you one thing. Friends don't let friends become writers, and don't be a social justice warrior. Just be yourself. React.
Well, that's maybe who I am or who some people are.
Don't be a social justice warrior.
How some people are, at least. Maybe not me as much.
Social justice warriors flip their lid too much. They have too many opinions. They're passionate about things that will never change or will try to. They think they have more influence than what they really have. They don't know the chessboard too much. So that's my counsel to you is if you're going to be offended about everything, if you're going to be the type of person that's just going to, flip out and go on a political crusade on Twitter, it's not going to help you much, okay?
And you're telling me maybe get off the air. You don't want me on this podcast anymore, is what you're trying to tell me.
No, you can be a social justice warrior. I'm just telling you it's not going to go anywhere for you. It's just going to
You're saying I'm fighting. I would be fighting for nothing, and you think those people are fighting for nothing, truly.
You'd be unhappy all the time because then if you're trying to, you can make changes, but we're calling them social justice warriors, the ones that get offended about everything and make everyone's life miserable when people make mistakes or when people, say things they're not supposed to say, then they boycott and they make all these things go on. And, I'm talking about those, not the ones that say things. You can have an opinion, but it's the ones that have these outcry and call. It's the people that will email sponsors and say, hey, look, if Bill Maher had sponsors on his show, they would call up and say, look, we're not going to work with you. You need to work with him and you need to pull your advertising from him because of the fact he said the N-word. People like that are annoying.
be opinionated is your point, but don't be over the edge. Don't be over the edge with your opinion, right?
Exactly. Don't be a social justice warrior. That's the category that I think is the name that categorizes people that will call up sponsors and complain that someone's on the air. Don't call for someone's job. I believe that you educate people. If people make mistakes, you relieve ignorance and you allow people to make mistakes and you try to overcome it, not punish it.
Speaking of being opinionated, really quick to end this week's podcast, Fox Sports is redirecting its digital content focus to videos and strictly videos. Surprising, but in a time of embracing debate, especially from Fox Sports and all of their entities, including FS1 with Undisputed with Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, too much to stand there at times from those two bloviators. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And also with Speak for Yourself. And co-hosting that show are Colin Coward, who I think we both love on the Herd, his radio show, which is simulcast on FS1 during the day. But also Jason Whitlock is on that program, which a lot of people can't stand Jason Whitlock. I can stand Coward, but I really can't stand either Bayless or Sharp, too, who are the co-hosts, once again, of Undisputed, which is a morning show that pretty much goes head-to-head with First Take, which is now airing on ESPN. But to sum all this up, writers are losing their positions because of it, like me, and having a look for other jobs.
But that's pretty much it for you, isn't it? I mean, you might as well pack it in. Game over.
Maybe. And it happened to a lot of people at FoxSports.com. I think as many as 20 people got laid off, and these are layoffs recently, because of their shift to videos. And you look at their website, how it's been redesigned, FoxSports.com now, Doc. If you look at it, it's all videos, man. All videos from their studio programs, too. It's just redirecting people to their studio programs on a daily basis and getting rid of all their writers. And it's a bad thing for journalists. And journalism, once again, is taking a hit, Doc, and a big-time hit.
Why do you think this is happening?
More eyeballs are attracted now, I think, to these hot take artists on videos. And FS1 itself has deployed that strategy now with its studio programming. And FoxSports.com now is doing the same, redirecting traffic on a daily basis through videos from these very programs. So they're thinking they're going to get more bang for their buck. And by the way, as you've stated yourself, and you know big time, studio programming, it saves on costs. Instead of paying writers, you save money by having videos that are just made from shows you're already doing in the studio where you save money, too.
Vito, would you call me a pioneer?
A pioneer of what? In what movement? Of the podcasting movement?
Not of the entire podcasting movement, but of podcasting in Detroit.
Maybe in the...
Not a pioneer, but let me tell you this.
Not a pioneer, that's for sure.
I had the vision that sports could be talked about via podcast in a way that could be profitable. And so did I make a site about writing? Did I fill my DetroitSportsPodcast.com with writers about sports? No.
And that's not selling.
And it's not selling. In 2013, I realized, okay, nobody reads. Okay.
No, short attention spans.
I became addicted to the cell phone about 2014, not in 2013. But I was aware of my surroundings. I was realizing, okay, people are on their phones, but they're not reading. They're not going to the library all that much. They're not burying their head in books. Back in 1997, I could go out and walk across Michigan State's campus. There would be 8 dozen or so people sitting on beach blankets, enjoying a book, talking and conversating, fornicating, doing a bunch of different things. But at the same time now, you walk across the same campus, everybody's on their phone with their hand up in the air, Snapchatting, or doing a video.
You and I both now, we're bad for it now ourselves.
Or FaceTiming their loved one who's across town at Michigan or wherever they may be. Nobody's really reading anymore. So I realized that, and I had a love of radio. So I developed a passion for the spoken word, and I felt like that was a way to get a message across way better than if I ever were to try to put 5 words together. Okay,
but maybe that's because you can't write that well, Doc.
I cannot write that well at all. My grammar's piss poor. I'm a multilingual individual, so it affects my English a little bit, and that I didn't care about English all that much. And fortunately for me in the jobs that I've taken, I have not really had to write all that well. You just got to kind of put notes down and things like that. But the notion is, and everybody realizes, the writing field is kind of now shrinking, and people are realizing, look, the model has changed. And look now, Vito, journalists know it. Everybody knows it, that content is going to need to be delivered differently if you're a writer. Because if you're going to be a writer and you're going to try to work for a newspaper and build your way up, then you're about to be exposed to probably layoffs, skipping jobs. Look at, Al Willman, the gentleman that you had as a guest on the Tigers Talk podcast. Started off in Detroit, but part-time. He has to go to Kentucky to fulfill his career. you got to move. You got to be mobile. So the writing field is a challenging field in that you might have to do some things in order to advance. Whereas I figure, you know what? The spoken word has been around for ages and has lasted. And then for me, look, I'm realizing I'm a bald 38-year-old, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever really asked you, how would you rate my voice that you hear through the headphones there? How would you rate it?
I salivate over your voice, actually, when I listen back to every single edition of these podcasts.
Exactly.
But no, it's sexy enough. It's boisterous or strong
people
enough.
Tell me the reason why I got into podcasting was people said that they kind of got a relaxing, calm vibe out of me when I would speak. And
you are calming, and I think that's probably because of your work in the psychology field, too. Right? Being a psychologist probably has helped out in that way.
And that I have a perspective, and that I'm not like one of those people that has a grating voice or one of those people that screams super
like
loud. But yeah, I'm just kind of one of those chill dudes that will give his opinion, sometimes in a sarcastic way.
Yep.
And I realized, look, I don't want to stick my face all up in the camera. That's why I have you do the Twitter Lives. That's why I have Adam do the Twitter Lives, because you guys are more pleasurable to look at. And
are we better looking?
And I've incorporated it into our work. But at the same time, I still have the allure. And what does Steve Chimenti, super fan of the network, keep telling us? Do live streams, do more videos, do more, because they want to see.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I'm opposed to it a little bit because I love the mystique of who is that behind the mic? What does he look like? Is he a 6'4" handsome young devil that's speaking about the Detroit Tigers and things like that? So I love the allure of the spoken word. But in terms of the media, it's obvious that writing is getting lower on the totem pole. It shouldn't be. There is a spot for it, but it's now being realized by the efforts of a Craig Custance by doing your own thing, which is what we did. All I said was, look, I'm not going to get on the ticket. They're never going to respond to an email, so I did it myself. And look what we did. I said, look, okay, the avenue's not for me to get on the ticket to blast my opinions via the microphone, so I started my own thing. If people like it, they support it. If they don't like it, we'd have no listeners. We'd have no sponsors. We'd have no supporters. We'd have no Twitter page. I realized, okay, I think there's a market for it. People do message us. They like us. You found me. So I realized, okay, there's something here. Now, I'm always going to stay humble and realize I'm nowhere near effective at anything, but I did realize that the spoken word was probably going to be better than the written word. And I think, unfortunately, that's the trend. And that's why you're seeing all these layoffs, all these struggles for writers. Unfortunately, now, what stinks is you can't really be a marginal writer anymore. Before, you could be. You could be kind of average and get around. Unfortunately, the nature of the game is you got to be a great writer to stick around in the business. And unfortunately, there's just not that many great writers. Okay, so that's just the way I'm going to put it, is that you want to be a writer? I'm going to tell you what Cam Newton told the kids to tie this back to our earlier chat. Be singular focused, be the absolute best writer that you can be, have hope that there's opportunities that you can do other things like podcast, like edit, like other jobs, and do it yourself. Okay? Don't hop onto someone else's train. You want to be a writer? If you get fired, start MatthewMowry.com. Start your own thing. Write. Do things for yourself. That's my opinion on things, is that, look, if I were to be a writer and I was going to be fired the next day, boom, the next day I start up JohnMcEnroe.com and I'm writing 50 articles that day, all day long. I'm going to say, look, if you like what you hear, kick me back $5 a month. You get, like I said, if Craig Custance's site, based on the math alone, 500 people at $30 a month is $15,000. Now, kind of looking at the model that he's going with, it's kind of tough right now in that he's already adding some big name staff.
Yeah, is that enough to pay the writers, right, on his staff? Probably won't be long term. You need more money coming into your website per month than
And then,
than
Vito,
that.
I got to ask you, because you're in it.
Yeah.
Does your own field value your work? Because it seems like they've gone corporate and realized, look, we can fill up a paper full of $50 an article writers.
Yeah, like me. That's me.
It's one of those things where if your own field kind of doesn't respect the job and is cutting corners, how do an outsider like me respect the field?
Well, the thing is, I try to do more. I think of myself as more than a journalist. I think of myself as an entertainer, too. And you have to be entertaining. Your voice and what you spew through your voice, the spoken word, has to be entertaining, and via written journalism, too. If you can do both, and that's why I bring up, you harped on being singularly focused once again. You brought that point up once again. For me, I'm going to revert to what I was saying and play devil's advocate once again and say be multidimensional. How important nowadays is it to be multidimensional? Because cranking out 50 articles per day per your own website, what are you getting from that if you're not entertaining, too, with your writing, and if you can't do something via video or be good with the spoken word and do live spots or recorded spots via a podcast platform, which I think you need more and more as a journalist in my field if you want to succeed and last long term. Now, if you want to have a short-term career and don't care about really succeeding in journalism, then maybe you'll just write strictly facts and those kind of articles. But you need to be entertaining. If you can't spin it, what you're writing, what you're talking about in an entertaining fashion, I think you lose out in the long haul. And maybe some boring or more dull writers are losing out too because, well, their writing's a little bit dull. It's all just fact-based. Nothing else really refreshing is found in their articles. But I think more and more to my point is that maybe they can't do anything besides for writing. Maybe they're not multidimensional and they can't be, that means, entertaining via a video format or a podcast format. Because for me, I feel like I'm entertaining in that way too. And I feel like I need to work on that and even become more entertaining in doing these podcasts. And when I do record videos with you via Periscope or whatever it may be, Doc. Doesn't that make sense too, Doc?
No doubt about it. You got to be entertaining. The market will dictate.
Yeah.
This is where the capitalistic nature of our society is saying that writers aren't important. Unfortunately,
they're not entertaining. They're dull. They're boring people. And I'm making fun of my own kind, my own industry. But I see it. I can speak about it. And you know what? If it offends anybody, I'm sorry. But I see it. And I guess I'm a little bit weird or eccentric too. But there's even more weird people out there. And I think more dull than me.
And you're absolutely right. Donald Trump and the whole fake news kind of has taken a huge chunk out of people's respect for the media. But just on a small scale. Obviously, I have respect for the media. I love the great writers that cover all the Detroit teams and all people that try to write. I mean, I give you respect for trying it. There's no way I'd do it in a million years. But at the same time, Vito, it's hard to respect the field when the field has established rules and people violate it or they blur the line so much that an outsider like me goes, that doesn't look like anything journalistic to me. And then you go to yourself, if the field is not respecting itself and policing itself, then why should an outsider like me have respect for it? If I look at something and I go, that doesn't seem journalistic. That seems like it's hype.
But how many articles do you read a week or a month that are like that? Not many. Look at the grand scheme of things. And I think the Free Press and News and other publications like that would tell you that much, that, hey, we might have a fluff piece, as it is termed, once in a while. That's to draw some viewers to our website, some traffic to our website, to generate some money, some revenue too. But in the grand scheme of things, look at our print, right? Our print copy, our online copy. Primarily, it features a lot of fact-based writing that is informative, is not PR-based. Because I know what you're trying to get at. You read these fluff pieces that are PR-esque. And you know what? Newspapers that have a journalistic mentality, right? Journalistic integrity shouldn't be running those kind of stories, right? You're getting at that. So you're not going to have respect for those given publications. But guess what? In the grand scheme of things, on a monthly and yearly basis, these publications, they produce so much fact-based journalistic content. Remember that, though,
And I have to admit, like I said, I don't know journalism. I'm not a major. But all I would say is the field of journalism has to step up in its entirety if others are going to respect it. That's all I can really say at this point in time, is that journalists, the field, papers, writers have to kind of band together and figure out what's the standard going to be, because it's been blurred. Twitter has erased everything in that there's information that can be gathered and spewed out instantly, and there are some really bad journalistic sites out there that don't do great work, or they do things that are not journalistically ethical or credible or things like that. And so people like me look at it and go, okay, there is a faction out there. There are media critics in town that pinpoint everything and will say, look, this site's doing this. Look, this site's doing that. Look, is this journalistic? Is this that? Is this proper? Is this that? And this that? So there are debates within the field between journalists and writers themselves in terms of clickbait, or in terms of the whole notion of, like, what are we going to cover? Are we just going to be clickbait type sites, or are we going to be really in-depth sites? So there's a debate within your own field that you guys got to figure out. But in terms of what my overall thinking is, I'm of the agreement that probably in 10 years there won't be newspapers. It'll just be all computer hand-generated content that you can see on your phone. You can always get stuff written and typed up, but will there be a physical copy of a paper in 10 years? Probably not. And will writers have to change? It's happening right now. Writers have to change.
Oh, they
got to
are.
evolve. And they
actively are.
And they are. And there's some great ones out there, obviously. But at the same time, in terms of can you monetize writers at this point in time, it's being shown that hiring writers is a losing proposition.
Well, you know what? It's hard to go into the field because of that, right? And it's not financially feasible now for these publications to crank something out on a daily basis. So the daily print publications, I think, are going by the wayside more and more as we see now. And I think in 10 years from now, like you said, Doc, kind of, They will be gone, a lot of them. But I think a weekly publication still will be cranked out, will still happen. A monthly publication will still happen. And a lot of this work for journalists are going to websites, as we've already seen the last 5 or 10 years.
So, Vito, are you taking seriously my notion that you become a sex surrogate counselor?
How good would I be? That's the thing. I would like to poll the people out there. Let me know your verdict on me becoming a sex surrogate. Can I do it?
I've never had sex.
So how are we going to rate this?
Can I muster the energy, the necessary skills would I have? I don't think it'd be the right field for me, as it wouldn't be the right field for some to entertain a football career like I was harping on earlier when talking about Cam Newton and being singularly focused. I would never be singularly focused on becoming a sex surrogate. I can say that much, Doc. Probably wouldn't be the best field for me in so many words.
All right, Vito, great podcast. Always enjoy the chat. I wish you luck. No, I really would want you to continue to grind because I think you are a journalist at heart, but you are also a journalist / entertainer. And I wonder if people do kind of frown upon the way that you do your business. And
Probably. I think of that at times.
Probably.
Because me doing videos like I do where I'm sarcastic, I try to be entertaining, I say something that maybe shouldn't be said, it's not journalistically.
So there's an inner battle between journalists in that the old school sitting at the typewriter versus the young gun like you.
I want to have fun, too. I think you should have fun. And I'm still passionate about doing a good job. And I would say to you, I know what you said about these publications that are more PR-based now, or you see these fluff pieces, and it makes you think negatively of journalism as a whole. Well, respect the good journalists, though, still. There are still good journalists out there. Respect those individuals, and you can be a naysayer when it comes to the other individuals that are journalists that aren't as great at their craft and maybe don't take it as seriously.
Why?
Because I said so, pretty much. And also, because I said so about being multidimensional, you should be multidimensional. Or at least entertain that idea, because I think for me, Doc, in my field, you have to be that nowadays. You can't be as singularly focused as maybe you used to be able to get away with.
Always enjoy the chat, Vito. We'll figure it out in terms of what's going to happen next week, but I always enjoy the chat. I hope you have a great time at the lake if I don't get a chance to talk to you, but definitely the onus is figure out a better career and get some sun.
Will do, and everybody be safe and have a happy 4th of July. Adios.
And you can download all these great podcasts 24/7 on demand, Detroit Sports Audio, via our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, and you can subscribe via iTunes or anywhere that you can find podcasts. Just search Detroit Sports Podcast. We hope you find us.
I was trying to get it out here. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull